Story 1. Most people enjoy talking about themselves to someone who is actively listening and showing genuine interest, rather than simply waiting for their turn to speak. Story 2. I forced myself to say yes to social invitations for 3 months straight, even when I wanted to stay home and watch Netflix. It was exhausting at first, but I gradually became more comfortable being around people. Now, socializing feels more natural and less like a performance. Story 3. As someone who is quite awkward, I often find that I have meaningful conversations with the quietest people in the room. Story 4. I stopped being so anxious about my perceived shortcomings. Once you realize and accept that everyone has them, you should feel a confidence boost to some extent. This makes socializing easier. Story 5. Always look people in the eye. Avoiding eye contact makes both you and the other person uncomfortable in the situation. Story 6. Here are a few points to consider. First, I recommend a superb book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yes, the title is unconventional, and yes, it was written in 1939. However, I believe it is one of the best resources available for improving social skills. Try not to overthink the tips provided. As other commenters suggest, focus on active listening and let the conversation flow from there. A key strategy is to find common ground. If you are at school, discuss the class you are both attending. If you are at a party, talk about how you know the host. If you don't know what to say, compliment their shirt and ask where they got it to initiate conversation. Confidence is something you can practice. I experience social anxiety, but I push myself to attend community events. When I see someone I want to talk to, I take a deep breath and approach them like I'm diving in. There will be plenty of situations where the chemistry doesn't spark, but eventually, you will connect with someone and have a meaningful conversation, which builds your confidence. I also recommend conducting a values exercise to identify what is important to you and reflect on how well you are living in accordance with those values. When we are misaligned with our values, we often feel stressed, off-center, and unconfident. This is worth mentioning because others can usually sense when you lack confidence, which can hinder social interactions. However, I want to emphasize that it is not hopeless. Realigning your life with your values takes time. The good news is that there are actionable steps you can take that don't necessarily involve socializing. Start with the values exercise and make specific decisions about new behaviors you would like to adopt. Remember, it is about the journey, not just the destination, and you can make all kinds of friends along the way. Story 7. I forced myself to talk to people and told myself to turn off your brain and stop thinking. It worked for me. If I, as a person with diagnosed social anxiety and a naturally introverted personality, can socialize, then you all can too. Story 8. I went through a rough breakup and attended several events that I wanted to go to, but my partner did not enjoy. I don't know what happened, but it felt like an ego death. I realized that, 1. I tend to please others too much, which prevents people from truly getting to know me. In a way, people-pleasing is technically lying, as it suppresses my own needs and wants. People cannot know me when I hide my feelings. That is not fair to them or to me. 2. Nobody worries about the embarrassing things that I tend to focus on. I may have drunk too much and said something awkward, but oh well, people know who I am and what I stand for. Sometimes jokes simply do not land. 3. Being authentic is easy once you understand that some people will not like me, and that is perfectly okay and not my concern. Suddenly, I have transformed from being an introvert to an extrovert. I have groups of friends, and people say, "Oh, get to know him, he knows everyone." It's astonishing to see how different I was compared to how I am now. Story 9. I have learned to listen better and take an interest in the people around me. I also try to stay open and relaxed. Story 10. Being well-read and knowledgeable about various topics allows me to engage in meaningful conversations. This way, I can talk to someone and have a general understanding or, at worst, ask engaging questions. I have learned that asking good questions makes conversations much more engaging. Story 11. When the usefulness of certain habits I adopted to compensate for the lack of social involvement faded, I struggled. Video games, daydreaming, and the hope for success along a strict path were no longer fulfilling, and I lost faith in myself. During this time, being social felt natural, but I failed to realize that my loss of hope connected me with others in similar situations. This forced me to confront reality more honestly. It's not solely about being social. Often, when people say, be social, they actually desire something that arises from social interactions, such as romantic relationships. This explains why friendships often diminish when one person enters a relationship. Story 12. Antidepressants have been beneficial. However, this may not be effective unless your socialization issues stem from depression or anxiety. Story 13. Fake it till you make it. I pretended to be more confident than I was for a long time until I actually gained confidence through personal growth and self-reflection. I met many people and socialized frequently with new friends and coworkers. I discovered that most people were willing to go out for coffee or lunch if I had the courage to ask them. Once I initiated, they began asking me out as well. I believe many individuals are shy or hesitant to take the first step, so being the initiator was what helped me the most. Confidence is calming. Story 14. I learned how to listen. I am a talker. I can talk a lot, and I won't deny it. However, when someone interrupts me or someone else when they are trying to say something, it frustrates me. I had to become an active listener to follow my own rules. If I don't like people interrupting me, I'm sure others feel the same way. Story 15. I stopped being afraid to ask questions. People generally enjoy the feeling that you are interested in them or whatever subject they are discussing. It is also a useful tool if you want to know what type of person you are dealing with. Do not be too probing, but ask the right questions in the right way, and you will learn a lot about someone based on how they respond, no matter how minor the question may seem at face value. Story 16. Read the first part of How to Win Friends and Influence People a few times. As someone who was a loner growing up, there are some basic aspects of conversation I never really picked up on. Meditation practice helps me be more present with people. Story 17. Being empathetic to others means realizing that not everyone is looking at me or thinking about me. I am not the main character in their lives. I am only the main character in my own. Story 18. I read Emily Post's book on etiquette and explored the social aspect of dialectical behavior therapy. Many of society's unwritten communication rules are clearly outlined in these two resources, along with explanations for their existence. This is also beneficial for teaching children how to communicate. Story 19. If you struggle to chat with new people, you just need to learn to listen to what they say and find a way to keep the conversation going. If they mention something about their job or hobbies, you now have a topic to ask questions about. You may even know something about it and be able to engage in a discussion. Mostly, people warm up to you and appreciate you if you allow them to talk about themselves. This is all you need to remember to engage in good small talk. Story 20. Learning to engage in small talk and knowing when to transition to a more in-depth conversation based on their responses and behavior towards me took practice. Story 21. Learn to make eye contact by staring at the bridge of their nose. When you mimic their behaviors or body language, they tend to appreciate you more. Story 22. Stop trying to be anything other than who I am, rather than who I thought I needed to be in order to be liked. Accepted that some people will like me and some may not, and both are okay. Story 23. Knowing I won't see most people again is okay. They weren't around before, so if they don't stick around, it's no big deal. I can be myself around them and they can take it or leave it. Once I get comfortable with people, it makes it that much easier. Story 24. Practicing active listening and genuinely showing interest in people's stories and experiences has made a significant difference for me. Stepping out of my comfort zone and engaging in various social settings has also contributed greatly. This openness and approachability have improved my socializing skills. Story 25. Just two simple truths. 1. Be proactive. Go out there and initiate a conversation. Sitting in one place, hoping that someone will speak to you is not effective. Accept yourself for who you are and don't hide behind a false persona. Pretending to be someone else is easily recognizable and is a significant turnoff. Story 26. I benefited from the book by Dale Carnegie. It's easier to think of things to say when you're talking with someone who shares the same interests, like hobbies or movies. It's much easier to make friends by becoming interested in other people than by trying to get other people interested in you. Dale Carnegie. Flattery will get you nowhere, but a sincere compliment every now and then can work wonders, especially when someone is feeling down. It's all about sincerity. Be genuinely interested in what the other person says. Story 27. Speaking slowly gives you time to prepare and think of the next sentence you want to say. Sharing some lighthearted anecdotes can be enjoyable. Some of my favorites are, on my way here, I thought I stepped into something, but apparently, I was in luck. All good. Today, I have the constant feeling of forgetting something, but I have everything: wallet, keys, phone. While this information may seem trivial, it can often help to break the ice and facilitate calm communication without delving too deeply into topics that could become overwhelming. There are other things I could mention, but I've forgotten them at the moment. Story 28. I am working on putting myself in social situations more often and stopping the habit of overthinking or creating perceived thoughts in my mind. Sometimes I tend to imagine difficult scenarios and end up sabotaging myself. Story 29. I spent 6 months traveling alone. I cannot express how much that helped me with my social anxiety. Story 30. My first job right out of school required me to answer the phone and speak to hundreds of unfamiliar people each day. After interacting with thousands of individuals, I developed a distinct phone voice and persona for handling these conversations. Essentially, I created a character with a personality that varies depending on the situation and the type of person I am engaging with. Unfortunately, many of my friends have passed away or I have lost contact with them over the years, so most people receive my work personality instead. Story 31. I realized not everyone I meet will like me, so why should I care if they don't? Once I stopped caring, it became easier, and people seemed to like me more often from then on. Story 32. Being genuinely interested in others is essential. When you are curious about a person, you ask engaging questions, and everyone enjoys being the focus of conversation. However, this approach may not always be successful, as some individuals might perceive your interest as intrusive. Those who react this way are often cynical, and they may not be the type of person you want to connect with. Story 33. Somehow, I convinced myself that I shouldn't be afraid of social settings. Simply showing up and trying to talk to people gave me more confidence, but I can't say I ever feel completely comfortable. Story 34. Most people like to talk about themselves to someone who actively listens and shows interest in the conversation. Story 35. It all comes down to experience. Everything else depends on it. When I was less experienced, it was easy to think that others were just naturally better, but the reality is they simply had more experience. The unfortunate thing is that this is reinforcing in both directions. The more scared you are, the less you will put yourself out there, and the more you will feel like others are outpacing you. However, the more you go for it, the more confidence you will gain, and the more opportunities you will seek. Story 36. Working in retail is my first job. I had to approach everyone and was surprised at how easy it became to start conversations with people most of the time. Story 37. I became a referee at a paintball park many years ago. As a kid, I had to ensure that a group of adults and other kids didn't injure each other. I also had to manage older individuals who were excited and prone to arguments about who got shot first. Story 38. Leaving all the unnecessary advice behind, I decided to go out more and attended several events. A few were boring, but I only needed one good experience. I met a great person, we connected, and he introduced me to others. Now we have a group of 6 and we hang out almost all weekend, doing a variety of activities like clubbing, house parties, relaxed evenings, pool, and bowling. It has truly been life-changing. Story 39. I married my wife. She was very social and included me in her activities. I can be funny, as I have been told, and I enjoy a good conversation, but I'm also quite shy. She was never afraid or intimidated by anyone. She passed away recently, and now I'm back in my shell. Story 40. I took a public speaking class right after high school, and it changed my life forever. It was incredible to see everyone so reserved at first, then become open and able to talk for 10 minutes or more during a presentation. Story 41. I was very shy as a child. During my ninth grade year, I made no new friends, as most of my elementary school friends were not in my classes. Between ninth and 10th grade, I made a point to say hello to one stranger every day. As I gained confidence, I rehearsed a 5 to 10-second script of what I would say after someone asked, "How are you?" This way, I could respond, "Hello, how are you?" If they replied, "Hi, I'm good. How are you?" This script was not about how I actually felt. I just knew how to respond so I wouldn't freeze. By 11th grade, I was comfortable engaging in casual conversation with strangers for a solid 5 minutes in various public places. I could even deliver a 3-minute oral presentation in class with almost no anxiety. A big part of being adept at small talk was learning to listen with the intent to understand, rather than just waiting to ask your own questions. It's helpful to have a series of 3 to 5 questions prepared to encourage others to talk about themselves. Additionally, having 2 to 3 personal stories that segue into those questions can be beneficial. The goal is to listen more than you talk, if possible. As you become skilled at this, you won't need to rely on prepared responses anymore because you will have learned how to tell stories and truly listen to people. I now make a good living speaking to others. I engage in public speaking, coaching, and training. Other helpful tips include working on personal hygiene. Brushing your teeth regularly and using mouthwash after meals can help you avoid concerns about bad breath or food stuck in your teeth. Wearing properly fitting clothing without odors can also alleviate worries about being judged on appearance, making you feel more comfortable in social situations. Story 42. Just ask people questions. If you don't know what to ask, remember the basic questions: what, when, and why. I have engaged in small talk for hours, listening to people discuss their experiences. I respond with phrases like, "Oh, that's great. What made you do that?" Or "Where did you go?" It's truly an effective approach. Story 43. I got a job as a bartender and server. Instead of just following a script, I invested energy into having actual conversations with my customers. Social skills are important. Practicing them for over 30 hours a week improved my ability to talk to anyone, anywhere. Story 44. Going out to various public places and making small talk with cashiers while placing orders helped me build confidence. Story 45. Listening. I have been told that I am appreciated for listening. I ask questions that demonstrate my attentiveness, make a few comments, and allow the other person to speak. Story 46. Having a high tolerance for social incompetencies means being able to handle small talk, awkward silences, and moments when there is nothing to discuss. It involves enduring insufferable filler phrases and anything that makes you cringe, all while recognizing that we are just human beings trying to connect. Unfortunately, sometimes the only way is to engage in surface-level interactions. Story 47. My assistant used to stare into my eyes. I have an autism and ADHD diagnosis. Whenever I felt overwhelmed, she would really stare into my soul before leaving the room. Eye contact became easier. She provided me with exposure therapy and helped me overcome my fear of eye contact. Now I can comfortably make eye contact with others and not feel anxious. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.